Welcome back, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 8 o'clock. It's the Lacrosse Rundown. I'm Charlotte North here with ESPN's Jay Alter. And Jay, it feels like the seasons are changing. The fall is off and running. We've got a lot of things in the lacrosse news lines. We got a lot to talk about today.
Well, first of all, I've seen so much content out there, just everyone coming back to school. It's back to school week, and with that, fall camp starts. You got the fall sports starting for lacrosse, which obviously plays in the spring collegiately. They're getting their fall camp underway. I love just seeing the team photos of everybody reunited. It's that time of year for me. My college football season is underway. And also, how great was Paul Carcaterra last week?
I know.
Thank you guys for showing up for Carc. Great viewership and response to having Paul on the show, and for good reason. He had so much great insight. I'm responsible for at least a dozen of those because I kept going back to it, and he had so much great questions for us. And it's funny because usually when we have a guest on, we're the ones asking the questions, but I loved the questions he had for us, and we love the questions that you've sent in for us, so we're going to get to those a lot later as well.
That's why he's one of the best in the game. He's one of the best analysts, one of the best minds, just one of the best people. And that's why he was one of the most highly requested guests on our show. We've got some epic guests lined up for you guys in the future, but shout out to Carc. Shout out to you guys for showing up. Seriously, does anybody understand the game more at the youth level, at the high school recruiting level, at the college level, and at the professional level?
No, I don't think anybody does, honestly. When you take talking about how you should parent, a fifth grader, and then go to, here's what I think about the PLL playoffs, WLL. That was so great. Yeah. And honestly, it was good for the show because that's what we try and be, right? We want to talk to every lacrosse fan, whether you are a diehard and been playing for more than 10 years or you just picked up a stick yesterday. That's what the Lacrosse Rundown community aims to be. So.
And that is actually a great segue into one of our main topics today, because there's a lot going on in the lacrosse space. There's so many different disciplines that are being played right now, so many different sets of rules. And if you're new to the sport, we're here to help you understand what the differences are and what you may be watching. And so all summer long, we've been talking about professional lacrosse, international lacrosse. Myself, I've played quite a bit of different disciplines.
You played 3 different styles just this summer. Sure.
Just this summer. We had the WLL All-Star game, which was 10v10, and that was after the collegiate season ended, which we're used to seeing 12v12 with different lines, different rules. And then we played the international field rules, which is also 10v10, but a little bit different than what we played at the WLL All-Star game. And then we played in most recently the sixes discipline, which we talked about heavily last week, how great and exciting and new and fast and simple that discipline can be, and how great it is for younger players to watch. So obviously, there are a lot of numbers being thrown out there about how many people are on the field and what are the lines and what are the sizes of the field and what equipment do you need and all things that are understandable to get confused by. So the NCAA came out with a new set of rules that will be tweaked and changed for the NCAA season this 2026 spring. But we wanted to give you guys insight into what we think about these rule changes, and also kind of an overarching look at what you will be watching.
Yeah, I think this is the Lacrosse Rundown episode. When you get to the spring, you can flag and come back to and be like, okay, this is what I need to know if I'm sitting down to watch a college lacrosse game this season. Because I don't even know if this video is going to be accurate 2-3 years from now, Charlotte, because they're constantly tweaking the game. Here's the headline that the NCAA put out, okay? Women's lacrosse rules proposals approved to simplify penalty structure and improve pace of play. And when I saw that headline, I got very excited because as people that broadcast this on TV and want to grow the game and know that putting the game on TV is a great vehicle to grow the game, pace of play is a huge concern. Head coach of North Carolina, guest on the Lacrosse Rundown, Jenny Levy, has adamantly said if you don't get this game into a 2-hour television window, you are going to lose that television time and the game won't grow. So I saw that. I'm like, great. Here's my problem, Charlotte. I don't know that these changes will actually make the game faster. I think on paper they might. The biggest change being in terms of pace of play that they won't stop the clock for an 8-meter opportunity for a free position setup. Usually, as it was before, you'd stop the clock, 20, 30 seconds to set up. Now that clock will run unless it's less than a minute remaining. I just don't know that that's enough. And I feel like it's a weird area. They actually made more changes on the 8-meter, which I thought was perfectly fine. In many ways, it's the most exciting part of a game, right? One-on-one, great shooter against a great goalie. Now there's only 2 hashes. Like, to me, you've mucked with maybe an area that I thought was fine and didn't address, I think, the real crux of the issue, the real delay of game, which, in my opinion, is the time between a goal scored and the ensuing draw. And I thought they were going to take out the stick check. That was rumored.
That was a rumor.
Did not happen. And that would have saved a lot more time than whatever they're doing on the free position.
Yeah, so the 2 main efforts to speed up the pace of play, you mentioned one in the 8-meter free position, the running clock. I mean, everybody has to get set up. So an 8-meter is called. A foul occurs within that arc that you see around the goal. When you look at a lacrosse field, there's an 8-meter arc, and then there's a 12-meter arc behind that. So if you're fouled within the 8-meter arc, you get the penalty shot. And it's up to the pace of how everybody gets set up. Is the defender walking to go 4 meters behind the person that they fouled? Is the shooter getting ready quickly? I mean, are the other teammates lining up on the hashes around the shooter at pace? I mean, this could take, up to 45 seconds off of a running clock. Now think about how many 8 meters are called in a game and how many times, that chunk of time could be taken off a clock. That could be a lot of time that's, clock being used without play being conducted. And then the other one you mentioned, the draw control. You score a goal, stick will still be checked. But now there is a clock of 30 seconds from the time that the goal is scored. So this includes the stick check. You got to hustle over, grab the stick, check the stick, and get back to the draw control and be ready to be in position for the draw to be set. Now, there isn't detail on will that clock, that 30-second clock, include the referees having to set and blow the whistle by the time that clock hits 30. That part is a little...
That can take 30 seconds on its own, by the way.
Because in women's lacrosse, it's a little bit more subjective than men's lacrosse. The face-off for men, the ball is placed on the ground, and so it's placed at the dot at the midline, and the 2 sticks of the face-off men have to be, parallel and upright in a certain position before the referee blows the whistle for them to face off and see who wins possession. In the women's game, it's suspended in the air. It's between 2 sticks at midline, and it has to be placed in the top third of the women's lacrosse head of each of those players taking the draw. And so things can get a little bit shaky and out of position, and maybe the ball is sitting in one player's stick more than the other. I mean, I take the draw. I can't even tell you how many times that has happened because you can't be perfect if you're a referee. It's almost impossible to place the ball on the draw in the same spot each time because it is subjective and it's suspended in the air. And that's why it takes so long, is because no team wants a disadvantage. The placement can really affect who wins or who loses the draw.
Yeah, and to me, we've talked about it before in the Lacrosse Rundown. I think the game, in many ways, needs to clean up the draw. And I think the solution I finally come up with, I do not want to eliminate the draw entirely. I don't.
Okay,
and we want to hear,
no ban the draw.
Hear in the chat what you guys think.
Yes.
If I'm being too radical, and Charlotte, you keep me in check. Is 8 draw controls a game not enough? Because to me, 2 a quarter, 1 at the beginning and 1 midway through, to me, that still keeps the integrity of the draw control, but would keep the game moving.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say because it can have such an effect on who wins and who loses a game because, some teams play make it, take it. And, some teams focus, I mean, pretty much every team collegiately now really focuses in on winning draw controls. And we've talked about it on broadcast countless times. Sometimes the score at the draw control reflects the scoreboard at the end of a game.
Yeah.
And so, it does really impact the game.
But should it? I guess my question is, should it?
I mean, with these rule changes, it seems like we're going a little bit in the direction of soccer, where we're not having a draw control after the first and the third quarter.
Yep.
In soccer, you have, a kickoff at the beginning of the game and at the beginning of, the second half. And so, if we go to what you're saying is, we have those two draw controls at the beginning of the first half, beginning of the second half, and then after media timeouts, would you also then bring back at the start of the second and fourth quarter?
I actually would. Again, I'm fine with them experimenting with this, not having it at the beginning of the second and fourth quarter. I think you're going to see a lot of teams sitting on the ball, though, at the end of the first and third quarter. And I don't know if that's what you want, right? Like, to me, it can be very exciting in the final minute of a quarter for a team to push for a final goal. And now they're going to look up, shot clock's at 70. There's 58 seconds left. Let's just sit on it and keep possession. Like, to me, that's not in the spirit of growing the game and excitement. So, again, I come at it from a different perspective. I am totally biased. You were a former player. We have a lot of current player, or you're a current player, but former collegiate players. And a lot of current and former collegiate players listen and are probably like, Jay, you don't know what you're talking about. You never played the game. Fair. But I do broadcast the game, and and I'm trying to maximize excitement. And I think these rule changes don't maximize excitement, and I'm not sure that they will actually change the pace of play, and I'll be happy to be wrong if they shave off 20 minutes a game.
I agree. I think, it's going to be experimental. We mentioned, 2-3 years from now, these rules not being in place and a new rule being proposed, because it does feel like everybody is working in the same direction of trying to, evolve the sport of women's lacrosse, especially at the collegiate game, where so many eyeballs are on these teams, these programs, these athletes, and trying to fit it within that 2-hour window. That is the most important factor, because the way this sport grows on the fastest trajectory is with exposure, media attention, and being broadcasted on linear TV. And we're seeing more games than ever being broadcasted on ESPN Plus, ACC Network Extra, streaming, and then, on linear channels, ESPNU, ESPN2, main ESPN. And you're pretty much able to access any college game at any point throughout the season, which is amazing. But I don't think any of those are fitting within that 2-hour window or have fit within that 2-hour window. And you're seeing what the WLL did this summer, that game fit within the 2-hour window.
Yes, it did.
But there were so many goals still scored. There were so many exciting plays. It didn't feel like they were taking away minutes of us playing out there on the field. It was just, a set of rules conducive to the broadcast.
In fact, I think they were maximizing the minutes played. Like, we're talking about how you use that 2-hour window to sell the sport, right? The WLL in Kansas City, that was the perfect example. Like, there was not a wasted minute in that game. Where in the college game, even with these rule changes, I still think you're going to have some quote unquote wasted time, some dead air, so to speak. And one area I really want to touch on, Charlotte, is the fouls. Because the rules committee really wanted to try and clean up the fouls and the cards, because when we're calling a game, I think our viewers, particularly if you're new to the sport, even if you've seen the sport for 20 years, you don't necessarily know what is being called. You hear a whistle. Sometimes it means this. Sometimes it means that. Here's a green card. Here's a yellow card. There's a lot of confusion around cards and fouls. So what they decided to do was expand the 1-minute releasable penalties in the midfield that required the green card, right? To all over the field. Because I think people were confused. Well, why in between this and this line and this line is that a foul, but anywhere else on the field? So I actually don't mind that one. Where, to me, it gets a little confusing is using an advantage signal for 1-minute releasable penalties when applicable, which will allow teams the opportunity to play on. The 1-minute penalty can be negated if a goal is scored during the advantage or administered at the conclusion of the advantage period. So what that's going to be is like in the men's game, like flag thrown. If you score on the possession, they'll waive the penalty off. And if you don't, you get to go woman up.
Yes.
I think that's going to cause a lot of confusion. I see what they're trying to do, but I think it's going to be confusing.
So the green card rule that was put in effect, a couple of years back, it was only between the 30s. So the restraining line to the restraining line, you saw 1 minute penalties being handed out, for illegal use of the stick, being, too physical in a cross check, intentionally going off sides. And these were things that, the rules committee wanted to, not incentivize people to do, have intentional fouls in the midfield to maybe stop the clock or to allow your defense to get back into their defensive position and slow the fast break. So you were seeing a little bit of gamesmanship from teams in terms of, if you accidentally go off sides, everybody stops, there's a whistle and, there was no penalty where someone was going to the box. It was just a whistle. And then, everybody else was able to get back on defense. Over the past 2 years, that has been given a 1 minute penalty, a green card. And that is, it has caused for more stoppages because you have to, send that player to the box and then, get set with the clock and the penalty clock and all things like that. I like the advantage signal because it's something, we used at the WLL. It's something we've used in the professional game for a little bit of time is, understanding that there is a flag and you have almost a free play. This is something we have in sixes as well. We had in the World Games. If you have an advantage and you communicate that with your teammates, you can take a little bit of risk. And that could end in a goal. It could also end in, a turnover, an out of bounds ball. And then, that penalty will be given. So I like that they're, expanding this green card thing to all over the field because
I agree with that.
Some of those penalties, were egregious over the 30. You saw a lot of teams trapping over the 30 and doing things like that to avoid the green card, but still, be physical. So I think it clears things up in that sense for new fans to understand it's all over the field. It's not just in a certain portion. And then the advantage, I don't know how much it's going to affect, the clock and the stoppage of play. I hope that, players will really play on. And a lot of these situations will end in a goal and the flag will be picked right back up.
Yeah, this is a rule where I'm really fascinated to see how it plays out. Like I've gone through the scenarios in my head and I think it could be really effective and I think it could be more confusing than helpful. So I'm really curious to see it implemented in games. And, we talked about fall ball. You're going to have these rules implemented in fall ball. So at least in the spring, the teams will have an idea of, okay, this is how it's been officiated during the fall. So this will be a good trial period in the coming months. And I'm curious to talk to coaches and players how these new rules are going in the fall.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. That's what the fall is all about. You're practicing these new rules. Some teams might be practicing sixes lacrosse to get up and down and get in game shape and try different things in smaller sided situations. So you're practicing a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, you got to be prepared for everything. And we see from February to May, the different ways teams start to change their game plan when they start to see trends in what's being called and what's not. And that's something that, we really enjoy pointing out in the booth. And I also, there's one that I don't want to go unnoticed, and that is, it's a small one, but setting up 8-meter free positions only at the two adjacent hashes on both sides of the center hash. Now, we're used to 8 meters being called and you go to the nearest hash. So if you're fouled right inside by, the right portion of the crease, you're going probably to the first inside hash, which is a lower angle. If you're fouled in the smack center of the 8 meter, you're going to the center hash. There were 5 hashes and there were, 5 different lines, 4 yards apart from each other on the 8 meter. And as a player, you got to practice being able to shoot from all 5 hashes, depending on where you get fouled. Now, what do you think about this, Jay? We want to hear your guys' thoughts too in the chat.
Yeah. Get active in the chat because we want to hear what you have to think about this. Look, the first person I thought of was you because we've talked so much over the years about how it is a skill to be effective from all 5 hashes. a lot of people are only effective from these two hashes. I would say the optimal angles, if you will, on the right and the left, right? It was more difficult to be effective from the low angle hashes on the outside and the center.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, to me, it simplifies it.
It does.
So in the name of simplicity and easier to understand and pace of play, I like it. From a skill standpoint, how can I like it? Because it takes away a nuance, a level of skill, a level of depth that we got in 8-meter situations.
I know. And I'm thinking in terms of, broadcast, visuals, simplicity. On that front, it's less lines and it's way less confusing. So the less lines, the better, because for new fans, you learn what the 8-meter arc is, you learn what the 12-meter arc is. Then you got, the two restraining lines, you got the midline, you got the draw circle. There are a lot of lines on a lacrosse field. So I like it from a simplicity standpoint. From a skill standpoint, like you mentioned, you're challenged as a shooter to have deception and to change your levels and to be able to do that from all these different spots. And as a goalie, you're also challenged to be able to see shots from all these different angles. Now, only working on 2 of these 5, I don't know how much that's going to change efficiency. That's the number I can't wait to see this college season, is how efficient are these players from these 2 hashes.
Nobody dominated the 8-meter in the history of college lacrosse like you. So I really want you to give a strong opinion. If it were up to you, just you are a dictator on the 8-meter. All 5 or 2? If it were up to Charlotte North,
I would go with 3. And I wouldn't have them be the current 2 hashes that are specified. I would have them be spaced out evenly. I'd have 1 be top center. I'd have 1 be on the left and 1 on the right, because I think having 2 is hard. You're fouled in a position if you're driving around the crease, and now you're put at a completely different spot to take the penalty shot. I don't know if I love, simplifying it to just 2. I would go with 3. I think 5 is too much. I've loved watching the way that shooters have had to challenge themselves to get creative from these different angles, especially if you're a right-handed dominant player and you end up on the far left hash and vice versa. I love that aspect of the game. I think you still get that element with 3 different hashes. And then, the way that players at the center hash, they veer off on a slight angle to free their stick from the pressure on their stick side and things like that. That those are the details that our broadcasts with the team at ESPN, you can see on television. Mm-hmm. You can see up close. And those are the things that I love to watch, to talk about, to highlight, and to show, younger girls training. Like, this is how you become effective as a shooter. This is how you add deception. Something so subtle that can be the result of a goal, or, a defender getting a stick on it, or a goalie reading your shot easily. Like, those are the things that make lacrosse so skilled. And so I would definitely lessen the number of 8-meter hashes, but, some people think of it like a free throw in basketball. And if you're fouled in the paint, you're fouled in the paint, and everyone goes to the same line. So, there are multiple ways to think about it.
Yeah, no. And I think, to me, when I've been doing the sport now for over 10 years, the 3 things that I get asked by a new fan: 1, you touched on it, all the lines.
Yeah.
So it does help clean that up.
Yeah.
2, why does the closest to the ball get possession on a shot? And think about it. Like you just mentioned basketball. That doesn't happen in any other sport. In any other sport, if you take a shot and it goes out of bounds and you miss, the other team gets the ball. And that actually goes all the way back to the Native Americans. When they played on a field, it would be miles and miles and miles, no boundaries. So you would just run and chase the ball. First to the ball would scoop it up and they'd restart. So we obviously have boundaries, but that simulates who would have won it if the ball went for 100 yards? Who would have gotten it? And they say closest to. So I kind of like that because it keeps the origin of the game.
Yeah.
Albeit totally hard to understand if you're new to the game.
Right.
And then 3, all the cards. And I do think they're making an effort to try and make it more consistent. So I can see if those were the top 3 complaints that I get as a broadcaster, it's probably the top 3 complaints the rule committee gets. And I see that they're trying to address those 3 things. So I know I've been harsh to a degree, but I do think their heart's in the right place. And let's see how it plays out.
Absolutely. And there are other rules that have been proposed, talked about, and we want to hear what you guys think could continue to help elevate the sport of lacrosse in terms of maybe cleaning things up, making things easier to understand. One of those being, the stick check that people talked about. Some people have talked about, shortening quarters or, other situations that could help lacrosse fit within the 2-hour broadcast window. So whatever you guys think may be something that could help. You never know who's on the Lacrosse Rundown, watching our show, looking at the comments, and sparking some conversation. That's what it's all about. We're all here because we love the sport, and we want it to be as big as possible. We feel and believe that it will be. It's just, minor changes that might make the college season look a little bit different. And for you guys, if you've never seen the sport at the college level, this is your first season that you're ready to tune into. We're going to help you along the way, understand what you're seeing with some footage starting in February of maybe some of these things at play early on. And we can't wait to talk to coaches this fall as well and hear all the things that they're changing and tweaking and thinking about with these awesome new rules.
When we put out, who do you guys want to hear from? Somebody on one of our previous episodes said we need a Kent family episode, which I'm all for. I would love to hear the Kent family on all these rule changes and so much more, because I think even you could get 8 different coaches and they'd have 8 different opinions. So it's really interesting to see how it'll play out on the field.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But you guys gave some awesome questions last week on our episode with Kark. And then also we took a poll on our Lacrosse Rundown Instagram. If you guys don't follow that Instagram already, go ahead and follow. It's at Lacrosse Rundown. We have some awesome stuff that goes on over there, whether it's polls, it's chats, it's giveaways. We love the community space here on YouTube and on Instagram. But you guys submitted some questions for today's episode, and we want to make sure we get to those and the questions from last week. One that jumped out to me at first was Ava Lee 6467. She said, when/if the WLL becomes an established league, get ready, Ava Lee, would you rather have it be sixes or field lacrosse?
Well, let's ask you first, because you're going to be the one playing in it. I have an opinion as a broadcaster, but I want to hear from you first on that.
So we saw it this summer. We saw it this calendar year, actually, and we see it with the PLL. One of the things I love is that they are constantly adapting and broad, their set of rules, like we saw in the 10v10 all-star format. They're always trying to find ways to make this game better and easier to understand, easier to watch, all the things we've been talking about on this episode tonight. And what I love is that they've included the sixes discipline in the professional game in such a cool way with the championship series. And that's what we played in February. It's what the PLL plays in. You've got to earn your way in the PLL to get to the championship series. You got to finish in the top 4 of the league standings to punch your ticket to play in February. But it feels like the perfect balance, because for me, my heart is always, really close to the field game, because it's what we grew up playing. It's what we've watched and played for so long. And there's so many intricacies to the field game that I love. Now, having said that, being a part of the sixes discipline, I think it's great for new fans. It's great for the moment that the sport is in right now. And of course, leading up to the Olympics in 2028, that's what discipline of lacrosse will be played. So it's really important to familiarize the lacrosse community and others about the discipline. And what better way to do it than have the best players in the world on ESPN competing for a championship in the WLL and the PLL at the championship series. So to answer Avelie's question, I wouldn't.
Sounds like you're saying both.
I wouldn't change. I would have both, and I wouldn't change that. I think there is space for both.
Yeah, I think, to me, in terms of what the full league is going to look like in parallel to PLL, it's got to be, in my opinion, that 10v10 field game. That's the way I see it. I think because it gets more players on rosters and there's so much talent right now. So for me, I wouldn't do sixes because I think it would limit the number of players you get on the field at one time. And, we're in a really good spot right now where there are so many talented players, so you could easily fill rosters have competitive 10v10 professional games.
Yeah, so I completely agree. And I think, the coolest thing is that, you can be a player that is dynamic enough to do both and make both rosters. You can play as a certain position in the field game. And then, you can also show that you can do a little bit of both in sixes. And that's something that players train for. That's something that everybody's constantly trying to evolve and strive towards, because the sixes discipline is fun. It's here to stay. And there are elements to it that aren't in the field game and vice versa. So being able to, stay true to your roots in the field game and understand what your job is there. But then also, being able to be dynamic enough to showcase yourself as a sixes player is important for sure.
You talk about all the different disciplines. That leads to this question. You added another gold medal just a couple of weeks ago in China. Which gold medal with Team USA was your favorite, Charlotte? Field in 2022, box in 2024, or sixes in 2025?
Oh, boy. This is impossible. This is
like
an impossible question.
Your favorite children. You can't do it.
I mean, my gosh.
Recency bias? Is it recency bias?
There's recency bias, but then I go back to 2022 and I pinch myself at the players I got to play alongside that are since retired. Kayla Trainer, Taylor Cummings, Alice Mercer, Liz Hogan, Becca Block. I could go down a rabbit hole talking about how inspiring, how incredible those players are.
I think, you know what? I think you're safe if you say you're first, right? There's nothing like putting that gold medal around your neck for the first time.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here because I just can't give an answer. I can't do it. The first ever women's box world championships. Yeah. I mean, going into that gold medal game against Canada, where I don't think anybody would have picked us to win that game, and
that had to be the most difficult. I would think.
It was so. We were climbing Mount Everest, and we have our ring ceremony actually in a few weeks here. And
let's go.
I can't wait to see that team because that was a special journey. I love this question. I appreciate this question, but I don't think one triumphs over the other. I think any chance, I know I've said it before, but any chance you have to wear the USA jersey is one that you will never forget a second of, no matter what seconds those may be, if they were on the field in competition or they were in a tryout, in a training camp, or in a run test, you name it. I mean, you'll never forget any of it. And so, I'm very fortunate to be in the position I'm in. And I love that we get to talk about it. We get to highlight these different disciplines of lacrosse. I mean, we barely talked about the box discipline, but how cool that the women's box network of teams and players is growing rapidly. I've seen a question in the lacrosse rundown before about if box lacrosse helps you in your field discipline and in your sixes discipline. And I would say absolutely. Even though you're using a different stick, you're using different equipment, you're wearing pads. It does translate the stick work, the schemes, the physicality, the athleticism. There are so many ways that this discipline, box lacrosse, helps you. In the other disciplines, we were using box terminology when we were training for sixes. I mean, it all intertwines. So if you have a chance to play box lacrosse at a young age, I would highly, highly encourage it.
And it makes you think about different angles too.
Oh, right? Yeah.
So to me, I noticed that players that grew up playing primarily box are so good in those close angles to cage, particularly the attackers. So it definitely carries over.
Such a great question. All right, let's wrap up with one more question. Matt about Lax asked, will there be players added to the current WLL teams for the championship series?
Well, there have to be, right? I mean, we just graduated so many tremendously talented players. Rachel Clark's going to be on a roster, no doubt about that. I mean, I would think it's tough because it's one of these things where it's like, if you're putting somebody on, does that mean you're taking somebody off? Because again, in the sixes format, there's just only so much roster space you have. So, but I would think, Charlotte, there's at least going to be 5 to 10 new players. What do you think?
If you watched the WLL All-Star game and you saw the way that the rookies performed, especially Rachel Clark, I mean, she's just one of many, but Sam Smith at the draw is another one. I mean, she won, what was it, over 82%, I think it was, of the draw control.
Oh, no. Someone's definitely going to want her taking the draw.
I know, right?
Series.
And so, that's going to be interesting. And I can't wait to see it. Something that we love doing in the spring, especially this past year with all the star power that we had in the college landscape, is talking about what they're going to look like at the professional game, in the international game, and things like that. Now with so many different disciplines, including sixes, you get to see these players and the players you guys like watching throughout the college season. You get to think about them in a situation where they're playing alongside of and against the best players in the world at an even higher level than NCAA lacrosse, and to see what it looks like when they adapt to rosters like that. I mean, I definitely think there will be some college players playing on those rosters, and I think what we're also going to see is, after this summer of so much sixes lacrosse being played and evolving and, so many different tactics being used, I think you're going to see coaches in the WLL start to, have even better, newer lines of thinking, ways of building a roster, ways of game planning. I mean, the more that sixes is played, the more you're seeing teams really strategize and evolve in how they build their team and what they look like. So it's going to be, really cool to see. And I can't wait for what lies ahead in the WLL.
I love all these championship series questions, and because we're still many months away, it will mark the anniversary of the Lacrosse Rundown. We launched it for the championship series, and look what it's blossomed into. That's all thanks to the incredible community, you guys watching this. So we can't thank you enough for the continued support.
Yeah, you guys are the best. You make Tuesday nights so much fun. It feels like, we said it at the top of the show, but it feels like a new season, a new fall. Everyone's back in school. Fall ball is beginning. Everybody's hitting the field and training. This is really what you look at as a player. You look at this time as your time for growth and your time for developing. And so, same thing here on the Lacrosse Rundown. We're going to have some awesome guests. We're going to break down what's going on at the college landscape of fall ball, the world of college lacrosse, and a number of other things. We've got some exciting things on tap, but drop in the comments section after this live video ends questions you guys have for us, guests that you guys want to see, because we have some really exciting ones lined up that you guys are gonna want to hear from, that maybe you wouldn't have heard from otherwise. So we can't wait. We appreciate you guys being here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, and we'll see you guys next week.